Complete Transformers Prime Wars Trilogy. Explored. When it comes to the Transformers lore, the Prime War Trilogy is where nostalgia shifts gears and barrels full throttle into modern myth-making. Released between 2016 and 2018 by Machinima and Hasbro, this animated web series arc is less Saturday morning cartoon and more soap opera with laser cannons. Over 3 interconnected chapters, Combiner Wars, Titan's Return, and Power of Primes, the trilogy stitches together political intrigue, cosmic prophecies, and battles bigger than a Cybertronian scrapyard. Packed with fan-favourite heavyweights like Optimus Prime, Megatron, and Starscream, alongside lore-deep pulls like the Primes themselves, the series doesn't just roll out action. It digs into questions of legacy, leadership, and what it really means to wield power. It's messy, it's mythic, it's metal-on-metal mayhem. For longtime fans, it's a buffet of Easter eggs and callbacks. For newcomers, it's a crash course in why the Transformers saga is more than just toys smashing together. It's modern legend, which today we are going to unwrap in this video. Also, if you appreciate our content, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more such amazing cartoons. Transformers Combiner Wars 2016. When the dust of the Great War settles, peace is anything but guaranteed, especially in Combiner Wars, the explosive first entry in the Prime Wars trilogy. Released in 2016, this web series throws us headfirst into a Cybertron caught between fragile unity and looming chaos. The spotlight shifts to the massive combiners, towering fusions of multiple Transformers whose sheer power threatens to upend the balance of power, or so we'll see now.
For Maxima!
Episode 1, The Fall. The story opens with a clash of giants. From the energy of a space bridge above Caminus, 2 towering combiners emerge: Computron, formed of the analytical Technobots, and Menasor, the brutal fusion of the Stunticons. Locked in violent combat, their struggle tears through the skies before sending both crashing down to the planet's surface. The impact leaves Caminus scarred and broken, its people caught in the shadow of devastation. Amid the wreckage, the battle tilts fatally. Menasor drives home a merciless blow that sends Computron collapsing, silent and broken. Victory seems his. Yet as the dust settles, another figure steps into the chaos. Windblade, once the respected city speaker of Caminus, now transformed into something far harsher by loss and vengeance. Beside her is Maxima, a fierce warrior and steadfast new ally. Together, the 2 women launch themselves at the monstrous Combiner. For a fleeting moment, their combined assault holds Menasor at bay. Windblade's blade carves with precision, Maxima's strikes land with determined force, and the beast stumbles. But Menasor is relentless. With crushing brutality, he strikes Maxima down, ending her life in an instant. The loss ignites a fire in Windblade. Consumed by grief and rage, she pushes beyond pain, channeling everything into a storm of attacks. Menasor reels under the assault, faltering at last. Even as his massive frame begins to collapse, he spits out a final, cruel truth. The Council holds the Enigma of Combination, a relic with the power to create an army of combiners. When the dust finally settles, Menasor lies deactivated. Windblade, shaken and mourning Maxima, rises amid the ruins. She takes to the skies, leaving behind devastation, unanswered questions, and the faint, flickering spark of Computron, perhaps near to as lifeless as he first seemed.
In the meantime, I can have Wheeljack.
Episode 2, The Council. News of the devastation on Caminus reaches Cybertron, shaking its leadership into action. Within the council chambers, tension rises as the ruling figures debate the future. Each voice carries a different vision of control and survival. Rodimus Prime pushes for the creation of an army of combiners, believing overwhelming force is the surest way to maintain order. The Mistress of Flame, driven by her own sense of zeal, argues that the Enigma of Combination should instead be used to erase every existing combiner, eliminating the threat entirely. In stark contrast, Starscream, ever calculating despite his history, cautions restraint. The Enigma, he insists, is a mystery too great to wield recklessly. Unseen above them, Windblade lies in wait. The death of her ally Maxima still burns like a wound, and her grief has sharpened into vengeance. Through the scope of her rifle, she watches the Council and their prize, the Enigma of Combination. Her aim is not at any one figure, but at the relic itself, the heart of the Council's schemes. The shot, however, misses its intended mark. Instead of striking the Enigma, it tears into Starscream's shoulder, sending shock through the chamber. Chaos ripples outward as the Council reels from the attack, and for a heartbeat it seems disaster is inevitable. At that moment, a familiar figure steps forward from exile. Optimus Prime, long absent, emerges to intercept the growing storm. His sudden return halts the confrontation before it spirals further, his presence alone commanding the room. The episode closes on this unexpected turn. The Enigma remains intact, the Council shaken, and Optimus Prime standing once more at the center of Cybertron's fate. His reappearance signals a new chapter, where old allegiances will be tested and the struggle for power will deepen. Episode 3, The Duel. The episode opens with tension as Optimus Prime steps forward to confront Windblade, carrying the full weight of her recent actions. She is driven, relentless, and unwilling to relent in her mission, but Optimus refuses to let her destructive path continue unchecked. Their clash is inevitable, an uneasy battle where blades and ideals collide. Beneath the fury, however, Windblade's true motives surface. Her crusade is not only vengeance for Maxima, but also a desperate stand against the growing instability caused by combiners. To her, the Council's possession of the Enigma represents a catastrophe waiting to unfold. The artifact's power is too great, too dangerous to remain in their grasp. Optimus counters not with blind opposition, but with conviction shaped by centuries of leadership. He questions not just Windblade's methods, but her goal itself. The Enigma of Combination is no ordinary relic. It is sacred, ancient, and bound to the very essence of Cybertron. Destroying it, Optimus warns, through his actions and resolve, would not be simple. The artifact's power could demand an unimaginable cost, one that might ripple far beyond their intentions. Their confrontation ends without resolution, leaving the Council shaken and the Enigma untouched. As silence falls, Optimus turns his gaze skyward, his expression shadowed with foreboding. His final words carry both mystery and weight. Only one can help them now.
They can all burn. I know you do not mean that.
Episode 4, Unforgotten. In a barren, arena-like world, its surface scarred and hollowed into a colossal coliseum, Optimus Prime and Windblade discover a lone warrior locked in battle, Megatron. The former Decepticon leader dominates the contest, tearing through waves of Constructicons with unrelenting force. His presence radiates both raw power and volatility. He demands more challengers, as if conflict itself is his only sustenance. Optimus steps forward, not to fight, but to speak. Yet Megatron, ever cynical and unpredictable, does not hesitate to lunge. A clash erupts, brief but fierce, as the two legendary figures collide once more. During the exchange, Optimus falters into a sudden memory, a stark, monochrome flashback of an earlier duel, where Megatron had once urged him to end their struggle, only to seize the moment with ruthless betrayal. The reminder lingers, sharpening the gravity of their encounter. Windblade watches, questioning why Optimus has dragged them to such a forsaken place for a warrior so dangerous, so unpredictable. The answer becomes clear when the fight gives way to words. Talk turns to the Enigma of Combination, the relic now in the hands of the Cybertronian Council. At the mention of Starscream as its keeper, Megatron's interest ignites. What began as hostility transforms into intrigue, his stance shifting as the stakes grow clearer. Then, without warning, Windblade delivers a sudden strike. Her blow lands not out of necessity, but to punctuate the moment, echoing Optimus's call for restraint and purpose. The decision is jarring. Megatron had already ceased his assault, and her action unfolds under the watchful optics of the Constructicons, raising questions of judgment and secrecy. Despite the tension, the moment crystallizes into reluctant unity. Megatron, hardened but pragmatic, concedes to join their mission. With the arena behind them, the trio departs, an uneasy alliance bound by a single objective, confronting the Council and the dangerous power of the Enigma. Episode 5, Homecoming. The episode begins with a somber image. The Council, Starscream, Rodimus Prime, and the Mistress of Flame, standing over the fallen forms of Computron and Menasor. The colossal warriors, victims of the recent Combiner clashes, lie broken, a stark reminder of the escalating cost of power. For a moment, Starscream betrays a flicker of regret, silently acknowledging that sending Computron on such a mission may have doomed him. Elsewhere, an unlikely trio advances toward the Council chambers. Megatron, unrepentant and defiant, voices his intent to obliterate the Council and shatter the enigma of combination itself. Windblade, still driven by vengeance and distrust of the artifact, lends her support. Optimus, however, resists such drastic measures, holding to principle even in the face of growing chaos. Their infiltration does not go unnoticed. The Council, sensing intrusion, is thrown into disarray, and the Mistress of Flame brandishes the Enigma as both shield and weapon, threatening to unleash its power. Starscream and Rodimus argue for caution, torn between fear of the intruders and dread of the artifact's potential. The fragile balance snaps when Megatron opens fire. His strike lands squarely on Starscream, fracturing what little trust binds the Council together. The chamber erupts in chaos as the intruders are forced into battle against the Council's automated defenses. Amid the sparks and destruction, Optimus, Windblade, and Megatron push forward, prying open the path into the Council's inner sanctum. Yet the greatest threat comes not from within, but from without. The Constructicons surge into the chamber, merging into the towering Devastator. With brutal force, he seizes Rodimus Prime and drags him into the shadows, rending his arm from its socket. Devastator's triumphant laughter echoes through the halls, marking the beginning of a far bloodier struggle. Episode 6, A War of Giants. In the immediate aftermath of Homecoming, the situation is still dire. Devastator still looms over the Council chamber, clutching the battered Rodimus Prime and demanding the enigma of combination. Chaos hangs in the air as Optimus Prime, struggling to maintain order, turns his suspicion toward Megatron. Megatron, bristling at the accusation, quickly deflects, pointing out that betrayal is hardly his style to hide. If this had been his plan, he snarls, he would have already acted. With the tension high, Megatron commands Devastator to release Rodimus. The Combiner refuses. His defiance brims with resentment, voicing the pain of having been torn apart and rebuilt by those who feared his might. Now, standing whole again, he rejects all control. The fragile alliance of Optimus, Windblade, and Megatron has no choice but to engage him. Steel clashes and energy flares as they fight to subdue the towering force. But before the battle can be resolved, another presence storms the chamber. Victorian. Towering and determined, she enters with one singular purpose: to claim the Enigma for herself. The struggle intensifies as two colossal combiners clash. The Council, Starscream, Rodimus, and the Mistress of Flame watch in growing desperation. They resolve that the only way to halt the destruction is to wield the Enigma directly, to bend the combiners to their will. But obstacles emerge. Rodimus, gravely wounded, is too weak to channel his power. The Mistress of Flame, bound by her Camion physiology, cannot withstand its energy. That leaves only Starscream. Reluctantly, the Council entrusts him with the relic. The moment he touches it, the chamber is consumed by a shockwave of raw energy. Starscream seizes control of the battlefield, his ambition revealed in full. Under his command, Computron and Menasor rise again as enslaved warriors, while Devastator and Victorian bend to his will. With chilling triumph, Starscream fuses them all, melding himself into the ultimate gestalt, the ultimate combiner. Episode 7, Darkest Hours. Starscream is reveling in his newfound, near-divine strength. For a moment he towers as an unstoppable figure, a living weapon fueled by the enigma of combination. Yet the victory is fleeting. The power he sought to master begins to consume him, and his form unravels. The once imposing giant fractures into something grotesque and unstable, a swirling, chaotic mass where the shapes of Menasor, Computron, Devastator, and Victorian flicker in and out, each piece trapped within his collapsing fusion. The image is both terrifying and symbolic, a clear sign that unity has crumbled into chaos. From this monstrous instability, destruction erupts. The Council City is engulfed in devastation as Starscream's unchecked energy lashes outward. Towers crumble, plazas shatter, and waves of raw power scorch everything in their path. The Mistress of Flame and Rodimus Prime are struck down by one such blast, hurled aside with brutal force. Their fall signals not just the loss of leaders, but the collapse of order itself. Amid the chaos, Megatron attempts to escape. But even he, once the embodiment of defiance and control, finds himself powerless before Starscream's rampage. The display underscores the terrifying truth. There is no strategy, no might, that can resist such uncontrolled power. It is Windblade who rises to meet the impossible. Fueled by courage and desperation, she charges into battle, throwing herself against Starscream's monstrous form. Her assault is fierce, a testament to her resolve, but the storm of energy overwhelms her. At last, she is struck down. The penultimate episode closes in silence and ruin. The city lies broken, its leadership shattered, and its heroes scattered. Starscream, consumed by the very power he craved, stands as the embodiment of unchecked ambition, a force that devours both its wielder and the world around it. Episode 8, Destruction's Dawn. The finale, Destruction's Dawn, gathers the fractured threads of war into one last monumental clash. The episode opens in a surreal void where Windblade drifts, suspended in silence. There, she is confronted by the immense presence of Metroplex, the ancient Titan. His voice resonates with timeless authority, reminding her of her sacred role as city speaker, the chosen bridge between Titans and their people. He urges her to embrace her true purpose, to awaken the power that only she can summon. Answering this call, Windblade channels her strength. From beneath the shattered Council City, Metroplex rises with earth-shaking force, his colossal frame dwarfing the battlefield. In one sweeping motion, he seizes the abomination that Starscream has become, the ultimate combiner, swollen with corruption and chaos. Metroplex's grip restrains the monster, holding him in place for the final strike. Seizing the moment, Optimus Prime and Megatron unite in a desperate, unprecedented maneuver. Megatron transforms into a massive cannon, a weapon of devastating magnitude. With unspoken understanding, Optimus takes aim, channels the power, and unleashes the decisive blast. The impact tears through Starscream's unstable form, shattering the twisted fusion and ending his reign of destruction. As the dust clears, Optimus is stunned to find Windblade alive, her resolve unbroken, but the fragile unity dissolves quickly. Megatron, pragmatic as ever, presses the recovered Enigma of combination into Windblade's hands with a curt dismissal. His parting words make plain that this is no alliance, merely a temporary truce. Windblade, however, chooses a path of restoration. She returns the Enigma to Victorian, declaring it rightfully the Combiner's own. Grateful, Victorian receives it and is joined by Devastator, Menasor, and Computron, each restored and freed from enslavement. The reunion marks a symbolic healing of rifts long exploited in the conflict. The Mistress of Flame acknowledges Windblade's act, offering recognition and hope for renewed balance across Cybertron's fractured factions. Yet the closing note carries no comfort. Windblade, shaped by grief and clarity, warns of what lies ahead. The Combiner. Wars may be over, but a greater shadow looms. The return of the Titans. An awakening that promises to eclipse even the chaos they just endured. Transformers, Titans Return, 2017. If Combiner Wars was about brute force, Titans Return is about scale, cosmic, terrifying scale. Released in 2017, this sequel brings back the towering, city-sized Transformers known as Titans, with Trypticon and Fortress Maximus stomping into the spotlight. A lot happens, something which tips every scale. Episode 1. Aftermath and Rebirth. In the aftermath of the Combiner Wars, Cybertron stands battered and fractured. The scars of conflict stretch across its metallic landscapes, yet within the ruins, a fragile sense of hope lingers. The episode opens with a sweeping narration, a stylized flashback montage that retraces the battles of the war. These glimpses serve both as a reminder of what was lost and a bridge for the audience back into the world of Cybertron. As the story shifts to the present, we see the planet slowly stirring back to life. The Constructicons, no longer merged into their massive Combiner form, are shown working individually among the wreckage. Their return as distinct figures underscores the resilience of identity and purpose, even after being bound to something greater. Their efforts carry a sense of quiet persistence, symbolic of Cybertron's gradual healing. Elsewhere, the spirit of Starscream drifts through the ether, a fractured, ghostly remnant of his former self. His demise in the war has left him restless, caught between death and something beyond. The eerie presence of his apparition hints at a fate not yet sealed, casting a shadow of foreboding across the recovering world. From deep beneath Cybertron's surface, Metroplex awakens. The colossal titan rises with deliberate force, shaking the ground as he emerges once more as a guardian. His towering presence serves as a symbol of protection and strength, a reminder that the ancient defenders of Cybertron still endure. At his side, Windblade returns, her resolve hardened by the devastation she has witnessed. She recommits herself to Metroplex's cause, standing alongside Optimus Prime, Rodimus Prime, the Mistress of Flame, and Perceptor. Together they begin to prepare for the dangers they sense gathering on the horizon. The episode reaches its climax with a chilling revelation. Starscream's spectral essence, unwilling to fade, finds a new vessel. His ghost merges with the massive form of Trypticon, awakening the dormant Titan and infusing him with sinister sentience. The sight of Trypticon rising, animated by Starscream's will, casts an ominous shadow over Cybertron. His emergence closes the episode on a note of dread and awe, signaling that the struggle for Cybertron's future is far from over. Episode 2. Our Heroes Respond. As Trypticon unleashes chaos upon Metroplex City, the ancient Guardian Titan begins a telepathic communion with Windblade. In this moment of urgency, he reveals the deeper truth of his kind. Titans were not merely protectors, but pioneers. Long ago, they were dispatched to distant worlds, shaping them into havens where Cybertronian life could take root. When their work was complete, they entered a dormant state, transforming into cities until their presence was needed again. Metroplex, still scarred from the Combiner Wars, insists that his duty is not yet finished. Despite Windblade's fears that his wounds leave him too weak for battle, he declares his intent to defend Cybertron, bound by a solemn promise made to Optimus Prime. With Trypticon's shadow looming, Windblade moves swiftly to rally allies. She turns to Perceptor, but his attention is locked on a startling discovery, an unusual atomic structure hidden within Starscream's molecular remnants. The finding suggests that the Enigma of combination, once thought to be a relic tied to the Primes, may in fact be far older. Before they can pursue this mystery, a thunderous explosion shakes the city. Trypticon has arrived. Racing to the Primal Basilica, Windblade and Perceptor warn the Mistress of Flame of the catastrophe descending on Cybertron. Assessing the threat, the Mistress concludes that only another Titan could stand against Trypticon's wrath. Windblade, however, insists that Metroplex alone will not suffice. Reluctantly, the Mistress summons the elite Air Resistance Squadron, sending them into battle while fearing that both they and Metroplex may fail. Amid these preparations, Perceptor recalls another possible savior, Fortress Maximus. Built during the Great War, but long since decommissioned, Maximus's location has been lost to time. Perceptor proposes that Computron delve into ancient battle records, searching for clues that might reveal the Titan's resting place. Acting on this lead, the Mistress orders the Combiners to begin the hunt for Fortress Maximus, while hinting that a seasoned strategist may soon be called to command. Elsewhere, Hot Rod speeds freely through Cybertron's streets, reveling in his independence. But his carelessness draws the Mistress's ire. She condemns his decision to abandon the matrix of leadership, a symbol of authority, and a weapon that could aid in the struggle ahead. Hot Rod brushes off her reproach, confident that he can improvise in the face of any enemy, even one as formidable as Trypticon. As we surge toward its climax, the elite squadron engages Trypticon. Their assault, fierce but fleeting, ends in devastation. The Titan brushes them aside with brutal ease, leaving the city's defenses in ruins. As Cybertron's last line of resistance falters, Metroplex readies himself for the inevitable clash. He urges evacuation, but Windblade refuses to abandon him. Standing resolutely at his side, she prepares for the titanic battle that will decide the fate of their world.
This is the beginning of the end. We have never known this level of chaos.
Episode 3. The fight begins. The fight is here. Metroplex engages Trypticon in a devastating clash. Their battle rages across Cybertron, each strike sending tremors through the planet's core. Windblade, horrified by the destruction unfolding around them, urges Metroplex to withdraw, fearing the cost to the city and its people. Yet the ancient Titan remains unwavering. His duty is to defend, no matter the collateral damage. Amid the chaos, a chilling moment halts the defenders in their tracks. Trypticon exhales a plume of violet smoke, and from it emerges a familiar voice. Starscream's spectral essence, entwined within Trypticon, reveals itself. The realization that Starscream is the force animating the colossal beast deepens the sense of betrayal, transforming the battle into something more sinister than brute strength. Elsewhere, Perceptor and the Mistress of Flame work feverishly to coordinate Cybertron's defense. Monitoring the battle from afar, they reach out to Hot Rod, who reports that he is on his way to reinforce the front. Their parallel mission, however, remains unresolved. Despite relentless efforts, the search for Fortress Maximus yields no success. The conflict escalates with the sudden intervention of a higher power. The Matrix of Leadership, now under the guardianship of the 13 Primes, transmits a message across the void to Optimus Prime. Recognizing the weight of its call, Optimus abandons his current mission and makes his return to the battlefield. In a startling twist, Megatron resurfaces. His brief encounter with Optimus crackles with tension, their words layered with foreshadowing of the greater struggles yet to come in the power of the Primes. Just as suddenly as he appears, Megatron departs, leaving behind the lingering sense that alliances and rivalries are about to shift once more. Back at the Primal Basilica, Perceptor activates the city's defense systems, a desperate measure to stall Trypticon's rampage. At the same time, the Combiners at last uncover Fortress Maximus's location and begin the perilous process of awakening him. Yet disaster strikes before progress can be secured. In the chaos of the operation, Menasor accidentally launches a missile, its trajectory uncertain. Whether it strikes ally or enemy remains unclear, but the misfire is keeping us on the edge of our seats till the next episode. That much I can say. Episode 4. Overlord and Emissary. Cybertron edges ever closer to ruin as Trypticon's brutal assault against Metroplex escalates, shaking the planet with every strike. Just when the tide seems irreversible, a sudden and unexpected intervention shifts the course of battle. Emissary, the diminutive but ingenious Titan Master, makes his entrance not through brute force but cunning. Launched from within a missile, he slips past the chaos of the battlefield and infiltrates Metroplex's systems. Once inside, he reveals his presence and assumes partial control, awakening new capabilities buried within the ancient Titan. With Emissary's influence, Metroplex unleashes searing laser eye weaponry, his renewed might surging like a beacon of hope across the besieged city. Elsewhere in the quiet sanctum of the Primal Basilica, the Mistress of Flame seeks guidance in her prayer chamber. Surrounded by the sacred symbols of the 13 Primes, she calls upon their legacy in solemn reverence. The moment carries an unmistakable weight, foreshadowing the deeper struggles awaiting in power of the Primes, yet the sacred silence is shattered without warning. Overlord, a towering and merciless Decepticon, makes his sudden entrance. His power is overwhelming, his intent unmistakable. With devastating efficiency, he subdues the Mistress, subjecting her to merciless blows before striking fatally. She falls into a pool of energon, her light extinguished in a moment of rare, brutal finality. The abruptness of her death underscores the fragility of Cybertron's defenders and the rising threat pressing in on all sides. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, Metroplex rallies under Emissary's guidance. His laser volleys carve through Trypticon's onslaught, his renewed strength staving off what once seemed inevitable destruction. Cybertron's forces, scattered and battered, find fleeting courage in the resurgence of their ancient guardian. Back within the Basilica, Megatron arrives in the aftermath of Overlord's violence. There, he finds the Mistress of Flame fading, her final spark flickering with urgency. With her last strength, she presses him for the truth. Had the Combiners succeeded in reawakening Fortress Maximus? The answer, vital to the planet's survival, hangs heavy. Yet Megatron can offer only uncertainty. The mystery of Fortress Maximus's fate remains unresolved as the Mistress succumbs to her wounds.
But I'm really hoping it's above the waist.
Episode 5, At the Last Second. The episode opens with Metroplex locked in a desperate struggle against Trypticon. Despite his resolve, the ancient Titan falters beneath the sheer ferocity of his opponent's onslaught. In the chaos, Titan Master Emissary ejects from Metroplex in a bid for survival. His escape is brief. Trypticon quickly intercepts and consumes him, absorbing Emissary's laser blast energy and growing even more formidable. As the battle rages, Hot Rod and Windblade arrive to reinforce the defense. Amid the devastation, Hot Rod recognizes the unsettling truth. Starscream's spirit is bound within Trypticon, driving the beast's rampage. With reckless determination, Hot Rod plunges into Trypticon's massive frame on a desperate rescue mission. In a daring maneuver, he tears his way back out through Trypticon's eye, carrying Emissary with him. Launching the Titan Master toward Windblade, he secures Emissary's safety, while Windblade vows to summon Ratchet to aid in the escalating conflict. Yet even with their combined efforts, Trypticon's destructive advance remains unyielding. The scene then shifts to the shadowed sanctum of the Primal Basilica. Megatron steps into the prayer chamber, where the Mistress of Flame lies broken and fading. With the last flicker of her spark, she warns him of Overlord's return before succumbing to her wounds. Her death leaves an ominous silence in her sacred hall. Back on the battlefield, the warning becomes reality. Overlord makes his arrival, towering with menace as he looms over Hot Rod.
From hood ornament to rear spoiler!
Good luck with that.
Episode 6, Desperate Actions. The episode opens amid chaos. Trypticon continues his relentless assault across the shattered expanse of Metroplex City, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. Buildings lie in ruins, smoke and debris swirl through the air, and the roar of the colossal Titan echoes across the devastated landscape. Every step of Trypticon reinforces the scale of the threat, reminding all who watch that Cybertron hangs precariously on the edge of annihilation. Meanwhile, Optimus Prime, makes his way back to the Primal Basilica, navigating the rubble and lingering devastation. There he meets with Perceptor, and together they discover the lifeless form of the Mistress of Flame in her prayer chamber. Though they search for clues to explain her death, Perceptor finds nothing in her wounds. Her passing is a stark and sobering loss, leaving both leaders weighed down by grief and urgency. Elsewhere at Fortress Maximus, the Combiners, Menasor, Devastator, Victorian and others confront Megatron. Their anger and sorrow over the death of the Mistress of Flame mix with feelings of betrayal. Tensions run high as they demand answers, their combined might threatening to boil over. Megatron attempts to provide clarity, presenting footage of prior events, but his explanations are incomplete, leaving uncertainty and suspicion lingering among the Combiners. Back at the Basilica, the city's defenses are finally brought online. Optimus and Perceptor engage the Primal Basilica's weaponry, striving to slow Trypticon's advance. Yet the Titan resurfaces with terrifying resilience, seemingly impervious to their combined efforts. Amid the chaos, a mystical presence returns. The chorus of the Primes manifests once more in their enigmatic form within the Chamber of the Primes. Optimus retrieves the matrix of leadership from its resting place, reaffirming his role as the true Prime. A moment of emotional gravity amid the mounting peril. At Fortress Maximus, Windblade and Emissary work to de-escalate the tension between the Combiners and Megatron. Victorian steps forward, using the Enigma of combination to unite the Combiner agents once more. In a powerful display of unity, they merge into a single, formidable form, ready to join the fight against Trypticon and turn the tide. In the episode's final harrowing moments, Windblade interfaces with Fortress Maximus. Despite Emissary's urgent warnings to disconnect, she remains linked. Something goes catastrophically wrong, and the systems are straining with immense energy. Episode 7. Run for Our Lives. The tension on Cybertron reaches its breaking point as two colossal titans, Trypticon and Fortress Maximus, loom ever closer, each a force capable of reshaping the planet's fate. Trypticon, now fully animated by Starscream's undead essence, tears across the surface, leaving a trail of devastation in his wake. The Autobots scramble desperately to intercept him, joined reluctantly by uneasy allies. As the full scope of the threat becomes clear, the survival of Cybertron itself hangs in the balance. At the Primal Basilica, a quiet but pivotal moment unfolds amid the chaos. Optimus Prime entrusts the matrix of leadership to Perceptor, recognizing that its protection may determine not only the immediate survival of the planet, but the very soul of Cybertron. The weight of responsibility settles heavily on Perceptor's shoulders, and he vows to safeguard the Matrix with everything he possesses, even as Optimus moves forward to confront the Titans head-on. The scene underscores the trust and burden inherent in leadership, even as the world teeters on the edge of annihilation. Elsewhere, Windblade remains linked to Fortress Maximus, caught between overwhelming pain and the Titan's emerging consciousness. Emissary struggles to intervene, attempting to sever the connection and free her. Windblade wrestles with doubt, questioning Emissary's motives and the reasons he left her tethered to the awakening Titan. As the ground quakes beneath them, a herald of the immense power stirring, Windblade and Emissary realize their efforts are bearing fruit. Fortress Maximus begins to awaken fully, surging with newfound energy. The Titan transforms with a roar that shakes the battlefield, and together, Windblade and Emissary take up the fight, ready to challenge Trypticon's destructive rampage. Meanwhile, Victorian, now complete as the ultimate combiner, steps into the fray. To stand against Trypticon, she must draw on the full extent of her power, her strength amplified by unity and resolve. The stage is set for a confrontation of titanic proportions, where raw might meet strategy and courage under fire. I think throughout the episode, the pace stayed relentless, blending moments of intense action with emotional weight. Ancient defenders, newly awakened forces, and steadfast Autobots converge on the battlefield, each driven by hope and the urgent desire to protect their world. Episode 8, In Good Hands. The episode opens with a high-octane action sequence, immediately thrusting viewers into the chaos of battle. Victorian faces Trypticon in a stylized Sentai and classic mecha-inspired duel. Sparks fly with every blow, and the intensity of their clash highlights both the scale of the combat and Victorian's skill as the ultimate combiner. Meanwhile, Windblade and Fortress Maximus soar across the skies in a visually striking, almost Studio Ghibli-like sequence. Their flight conveys both the majesty and gravity of their intervention, emphasizing the vastness of Cybertron and the stakes of the conflict. Michael Dorn's commanding voice as Fortress Maximus adds emotional weight to the sequence, lending the robotic titan an almost human gravitas. Amid the turmoil, the chorus of the Primes interrupts, warning Optimus Prime of Trypticon's growing threat. Spurred into action, Optimus joins the fray, while the Combiners, abandoning their combined form, split up to attack Trypticon individually. This tactical shift showcases both their adaptability and their determination, emphasizing the intensity of the battle as they strike from multiple angles. During the confrontation, Victorian discovers an Energon shard and hurls it toward Trypticon, aiming to topple the colossal titan into a nearby Energon main. The resulting explosion is immense, engulfing Trypticon and nearby combatants in fiery chaos. The presence of volatile Energon mains beneath the city adds an extra layer of tension and a touch of bemusement, given their unpredictability. Trypticon adapts swiftly, shifting into base mode and activating defensive systems to repel his attackers. A devastating blast sends Optimus hurtling across the city, a moment of peril that underscores the Titan's raw power. Just as disaster seems inevitable, Fortress Maximus descends from above, intercepting Optimus in the nick of time. Windblade steadies him, signaling that he is in good hands, a moment that anchors the episode emotionally and reinforces the themes of trust and teamwork. Episode 9, Consumed. Fortress. Maximus is fully awake, towering over the battlefield and prepared for the confrontation that could decide Cybertron's fate. Trypticon wastes no time, unleashing a powerful attack aimed directly at the colossal titan. Maximus reacts with precision and heroism, shielding his allies, Optimus Prime, Windblade, Emissary, and Perceptor, within his protective grasp. With a surge of energy, he counters with a massive laser blast, the beams colliding in a display of raw power. Emissary amplifies Maximus's strength from within, enhancing the Titan's already formidable assault. Optimus Prime attempts to rally the Combiners, Victorian, Devastator, Menasor, and Computron, to merge once more, but their energy is too depleted to rejoin as one. Instead, he orders a coordinated full-flank attack, hoping to distract Trypticon and create openings for Maximus. The Titan heroically overpowers the clash of beams, sending Trypticon reeling. Seizing the moment, Victorian lunges, but Trypticon senses the enigma of combination within her and swallows her whole, a shocking twist that heightens the stakes and emphasizes the relentless danger of the battle. Meanwhile, Perceptor races across the battlefield, carrying the matrix of leadership. Pausing briefly, he examines it, noting the same mysterious particle he had discovered within Starscream's Enigma corrupted body. The matrix seems to respond, compelling him to return to the fight, a signal that its power is far from passive. Reinvigorated by the enigma of combination, Trypticon counters with a devastating energy beam that drives Fortress Maximus to the ground. He then unleashes a rainbow-colored attack, seizing control of Devastator, Menasor, and Computron, forcing the Combiners to turn on their allies. Amid the chaos, Windblade targets the rogue Combiners, knocking Devastator and Menasor aside, but collides with Computron and falls directly at Megatron's feet. Trypticon continues his onslaught. Optimus Prime attempts to distract the Titan-controlled attackers, but is grabbed and nearly torn apart. Emissary throws himself into the fray, but is violently flung aside. Windblade pleads for aid, and Megatron reluctantly intervenes, taking down Devastator to protect Optimus. This opens an opportunity for Windblade to strike at Trypticon and for Maximus to regain his footing. At the pivotal moment, Perceptor arrives and uses the Matrix of Leadership to draw Trypticon's attention. In response, the Titan swallows both Perceptor and the Matrix, triggering an explosive surge of energy that sends all combatants flying. The battlefield trembles as Trypticon begins a terrifying new metamorphosis. Episode 10, All Things Must Pass. In the explosive finale, All Things Must Pass, Cybertron trembles under the aftermath of an unprecedented clash. Trypticon, overloaded after consuming Victorian, the Enigma of Combination, Perceptor, and the Matrix of Leadership, violently expels them, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. Victorian bursts free, but the moment is harrowing. The Enigma ignites, burning away her right forearm in a blaze of volatile energy. From the flames, a surreal, smiley face forms around the relics, a haunting visual that blends triumph with devastating loss. Starscream's ghost is also expelled, reduced to a hollow husk. Before fading entirely, he utters a few cryptic final words, a fleeting echo that carries both tragedy and a sense of closure. The brief calm that follows is shattered by a new, oppressive presence. Overlord appears, silent and foreboding, observing the chaotic aftermath from a vantage point high above the battlefield. Even as the Autobots and Combiners recover, the Enigma shimmers and reveals its true nature. Not a mere artifact, but a godlike entity, Megatronis, the fallen Prime. The revelation sends shockwaves through the gathered defenders, who realize that the very foundations of their world are about to be tested. Optimus Prime steps forward, resolved to confront this divine force. Yet before the battle can commence, Megatron intervenes, insisting on dialogue, forcing a tense pause. His words are heavy with both reverence and resentment, exposing the pain and frustration of eons spent under the shadow of his creator. The fragile parley quickly dissolves into violence. Fortress Maximus draws his master sword, striking at Megatronis, only to be effortlessly deflected, underscoring the godlike power of the fallen Prime. Optimus charges in as well, but the sheer magnitude of Megatronis' attack blasts him clean through the chest. In a chilling, silent moment, Optimus' spark fades, symbolizing a devastating blow to the Autobots' hope and morale. Before vanishing into the ether, Megatronis delivers a dire warning of an impending apocalypse, a catastrophe that threatens all Transformers. His departure leaves the battlefield heavy with shock, grief, and uncertainty. In the stunned aftermath, Megatron steps forward, assuming a fragile leadership role. With grim determination, he declares that he knows where to find Megatronis and urges the others to follow him on a new, perilous quest, a path fraught with danger, moral ambiguity, and the looming shadow of the fallen Prime. The episode closes on a tense, somber note, with Cybertron's defenders reeling from loss, yet bound together by necessity. The stakes have escalated to godlike proportions, leaving every character poised for the trials that lie ahead, and setting the stage for an uncertain and epic continuation of the Transformers saga. Transformers: Power of Primes, 2018. The trilogy comes to a thunderous close with Power of Primes, where prophecy collides with destiny. The ancient artifacts known as the Prime Relics surface, and with them, questions of who deserves ultimate power. Megatronis, the Fallen himself, returns, bringing apocalyptic danger, while Optimus Primal rises from the ranks to claim leadership. Let us jump right in the final showdown. Episode 1, The Swamp. In the shadowed depths of a remote Cybertronian marsh known as the Swamp, Megatronis moves with relentless purpose. Voiced with an ominous gravitas by Mark Hamill, the Fallen Prime cuts through the mist, his single-minded goal clear: to locate the legendary Requiem Blaster, a relic of immense power intimately tied to the fate of the Primes. As he advances, fleeting visions of his long-lost companion Solus Prime flicker before him, reminders of a tragic, mythic past that haunts his every step and shapes the obsessions driving his action. Meanwhile, a tenuous and uneasy alliance forms under Megatron's command. Despite the lingering tensions and scars of war between Autobots and Decepticons, Megatron rallies a diverse coalition, including Grimlock and the rest of the Dinobots, to pursue the same artifact. The Requiem Blaster's potential to alter the balance of power on Cybertron unites these disparate warriors, though trust is fragile and suspicion lingers. Their journey plunges them deeper into the swamp's thick, suffocating vegetation, where the air is heavy with mist and the terrain is as treacherous as it is unpredictable. It is here that the two forces converge with sudden imposing presence. Volcanicus, the awe-inspiring combiner form of the Dinobots, rises from the swamp, embodying raw strength, unity, and primal fury. The sheer scale and power of Volcanicus serve as a living barrier, a test of skill, resolve, and strategy for those who dare approach the Requiem Blaster. A silent tension builds as the swamp becomes a crucible, the murky water and dense canopy amplifying every movement, every calculated step. Megatronis, driven by past betrayals and an unyielding obsession with supremacy, presses forward with unflinching determination. Megatron's team, in contrast, must navigate shifting alliances, the unpredictable temperaments of their primal companions, and the precarious dynamics of warriors bound by necessity rather than loyalty. The stage is set for an inevitable collision, a confrontation shaped as much by the swamp's claustrophobic confines as by the stakes of the cosmic relic they pursue. Episode 2, Volcanicus. Beneath the dense canopy of the primal swamp, the Autobots, Victorian, Windblade, and the brilliant scientist Perceptor face a dire new threat. Towering above them is Volcanicus, the newly formed Dinobot Combiner, a colossal fusion of Grimlock, Snarl, Swoop, Sludge, and Slug, created to counter the Decepticon menace. The Autobots struggle against his immense size and overwhelming power, resorting to desperate maneuvers to slow his advance and prevent the Requiem Blaster from falling into the wrong hands. Perceptor devises a bold, if questionable, stringent strategy: distract Volcanicus under the guise of scientific interrogation. Though absurd, Volcanicus is already fully aware of who he is. The ruse buys just enough time for Victorian to strike a powerful blow, turning the tide briefly in the Autobots' favor. Yet their respite is short-lived. From the swamp's shadowed depths, Predaking emerges, a looming and immediate threat. His demand for the Enigma of combination hints at deeper mysteries yet to unfold, leaving the Autobots on edge as the scene cuts to a tense cliffhanger, propelling the narrative forward. Meanwhile, a perplexing subplot follows Megatron. Despite being violently thrown miles away in the previous episode, he inexplicably reappears mere feet from the swamp's edge. Drawn by a mysterious glint, he wanders off alone, leaving his team to confront the escalating threats without support, raising questions about his intentions and the consequences of his absence. Shifting back to Cybertron's urban battleground, the fate of other Decepticon combiners grows darker. Overlord and Rodimus launch a ruthless operation, interrogating Computron and Menasor for information about Megatron's location. Rodimus delivers a brutal display of power, killing Computron with a single strike and forcing Menasor to his demise, even after extracting the vital intel that Megatron is heading toward the Primal Swamp. With the information secured, Overlord and Rodimus turn their full attention toward the swamp, accelerating toward the inevitable and looming confrontation. Episode 3, Without Warning. Megatron finds himself separated from his team, drawn irresistibly toward a mysterious structure radiating an enigmatic energy. Alone, he navigates the uncertain terrain, unaware of the escalating dangers facing his ally. Back in the swamp, what had begun as a tense confrontation has grown into a full-scale siege. Victorian, Windblade, Perceptor, and the others are suddenly confronted by two towering threats: Volcanicus, the combined might of the Dinobots, and the fearsome Predaking. The sheer scale and ferocity of their opponents force the group into a desperate, high-stakes defensive struggle. Every maneuver carries risk, and survival becomes a razor's edge as the combat intensifies. Amid the chaos, the fallen Prime, Megatronis, makes a deliberate and calculated move. He arrives at the Well of Sparks, a sacred and potent site steeped in Cybertronian history, to construct a device of unclear but undeniably ominous purpose. The aura surrounding the well hints at the immense power he intends to harness, and his methodical presence underscores the gravity of his ambition. The looming threat of Megatronis casts a shadow over the battlefield, raising the stakes for all who remain. Into this tense scenario descends an unexpected spark. Possibly Computron, previously believed destroyed, arrives at the Well of Sparks. His sudden appearance injects a new layer of mystery, signaling that not all is as it seems, and hinting at secrets yet to be revealed. This moment adds intrigue to the narrative, suggesting that the tide of events may shift in unforeseen ways. By the episode's close, the sense of peril is palpable. Megatron's fate remains unknown, leaving his team isolated and vulnerable. The defenders of the swamp are forced to contend with the overwhelming might of Volcanicus and Predaking, their survival uncertain against these towering adversaries. Meanwhile, Megatronis edges closer to completing his enigmatic device, each passing moment amplifying the threat it represents. The convergence of these events, escalating battles, the looming machinations of a fallen prime, and the sudden reappearance of a key figure creates a tense, suspenseful atmosphere. The episode leaves viewers on the edge, with the narrative poised for further escalation. Don't you think that too?
Megatron.
Episode 4, Primal. Tensions run high as Predaking demands that Victorian reveal the location of the coveted Enigma of combination. Despite Perceptor's fervent assertions that she does not possess it, Predaking refuses to accept any answer but his own, escalating the confrontation. The atmosphere grows even more volatile when Volcanicus finally snaps, shoving Predaking aside in a display of frustration. The resulting brawl, however, is unexpectedly sluggish and anticlimactic, failing to deliver the awe-inspiring clash one might anticipate from two massive mechanical giants. Meanwhile, Victorian's own frustration with Megatron's disappearance boils over. In a symbolic act of rebellion, she begins chipping away at the sacred temple that surrounds them, sending shards of stone scattering and asserting her autonomy amid the chaos. Inside the temple's inner sanctum, Megatron discovers the Requiem Blaster perched atop a shrine, a weapon teased in earlier promotions and now finally revealed. As he reaches for it, Optimus Primal arrives, delivering a solemn warning to leave. The encounter escalates into a brief but tension-filled standoff, highlighting the lingering friction between the two leaders and underscoring the deep history and unresolved conflicts that continue to shape their action. Outside, the Combiner clash continues with a mix of spectacle and absurdity. Volcanicus tumbles into a shallow puddle, becoming stuck and momentarily halting the action. Despite the anticlimactic nature of the fight, Perceptor seizes the opportunity to intervene, distracting Predaking and giving the team a critical advantage. At the pivotal moment, Megatron re-emerges, now wielding the Requiem Blaster. His imposing presence and the artifact's power intimidate Predaking into backing off, even as he reiterates that the team does not currently possess the Enigma, but that any future discovery will be communicated. As the dust settles, the Dinobots decombine, freeing Volcanicus and restoring order to their ranks. Yet the resolution carries an unsettling undertone. The temple begins to glow and emits a beam of light into the sky, an ominous and mysterious phenomenon. Working quickly, Perceptor and Optimus Primal decipher its meaning. The light contains coordinates, pointing toward the group's next destination and propelling the story forward.
The symbol for infinity.
Episode 5, Aanium Sanctorum. This episode marks a pivotal shift in the series, moving the story beyond the swamp and into the hidden depths of Cybertron's storied past. The Dinobots, separated from Megatron and the rest of their group, find themselves relentlessly pursued. Overlord and Rodimus Kron have tracked their trail, cornering the team in a tense confrontation. Under extreme pressure, the Dinobots are captured and interrogated. Overlord mercilessly questions Snarl, while Rodimus targets Sludge, threatening him to reveal the group's next destination. It becomes clear that the team is heading toward a legendary library, an ancient repository of Cybertronian knowledge. In a grim and shocking turn, Rodimus delivers a fatal blow to Sludge, leaving his companions and viewers alike reeling from the sudden violence. Meanwhile, Megatron, Victorian, Optimus Primal, Windblade and Perceptor advance beyond the swamp, guided by cryptic coordinates uncovered earlier. Their journey leads them to the Aanium Sanctorum, a fabled Cybertronian library hidden deep within the Cataclysm tundra. Rumored to predate time itself, the Aanium is an awe-inspiring sight, its architecture vast and intricate, filled with cryptic systems and relics from Cybertron's earliest days. Within the library, Megatron delves into the archives, assisted by Perceptor, and uncovers a haunting piece of history. The Requiem Blaster, a weapon of terrifying power, was originally sealed in this vault, after being wielded by Megatronis to slay Solus Prime. To safeguard it, the Primes appointed a protector, a duty that would ultimately fall to Optimus Primal himself. The revelation casts a heavy weight over the group, highlighting both the gravity of their mission and the ancient forces at play. Before they can fully process the significance of their discovery, Overlord and Rodimus re-emerge, ambushing the heroes in a sudden and violent escalation. In the ensuing chaos, Rodimus ruthlessly strikes Victorian, tearing her head off in a grim and shocking moment that underscores the mercilessness of their attackers. The confrontation leaves the library echoing with devastation. Episode 6. Countdown. Inside the ancient library, its vaulted halls turned into a war zone. Megatron, Windblade, Optimus Primal, Grimlock, and Perceptor find themselves locked in brutal combat against the combined might of Megatronis' forces. The confined setting heightens the intensity. Blasts ricochet off metallic walls, consoles shatter, and centuries-old architecture groans under the weight of the carnage. The battle unfolds with relentless ferocity. Grimlock is hurled into a towering computer console, sparks bursting as he crashes through ancient data system. Optimus Primal is buried beneath falling debris, dislodged with precision by Rodimus Kron. Windblade, ever defiant, throws herself into the fray against Rodimus, her strikes driven by sheer determination rather than hope of victory. Megatron faces Overlord head-on, a clash of titans that rattles the chamber. Overlord channels raw electricity into Megatron, but the surge washes over him with no discernible effect, leaving even his opponent momentarily startled. Nearby, Perceptor seizes a desperate chance. He spots the Requiem Blaster resting within reach and raises it toward Overlord. The act, bold but reckless, is swiftly answered. Megatron intercepts without hesitation, blasting Perceptor down before he can fire. The shock of betrayal ripples through the skirmish. Action surges in cinematic bursts. Overlord splits seamlessly into his jet and tank modes, unleashing destruction from multiple angles. Megatron transforms in kind, thundering into tank form to retaliate. Rodimus seizes the opening, grappling Megatron and hurling him across the chamber with brutal force. Windblade presses forward, firing volleys at Overlord, only for him to throw up a crackling force field that bends her blasts back in a dazzling, deadly ricochet. Grimlock, battered but unbroken, claws his way back into the fight, charging once more with primal fury. Amidst the chaos, the focus shifts to Optimus Primal. Rather than wielding the Requiem Blaster to turn the tide, he makes a shocking choice, grabbing the weapon and retreating from the battle altogether. His decision reverberates with weight, carrying not only surprise but guilt as he reveals the burden of having once left the relic hidden in the primal swamp. The skirmish narrows to a tense climax. Rodimus closes in on Megatron, weakened from the fight, but Windblade intervenes with fearless resolve, stepping between them to shield her fallen comrade. Rodimus tightens his grip on her, choking with ruthless intent, when Overlord cuts in, asserting his claim to finish Megatron himself. The screen holds in a breathless moment of betrayal and desperation, until Optimus Primal suddenly reappears. In a shocking twist, he raises the Requiem Blaster and fires at Megatron, setting the stage for a devastating strike that could turn the tide not only against Overlord, but against everything the fragile alliance has fought to preserve. Episode 7. Consequences. A thunderous blast from the Requiem Blaster tears across Cybertron, carving a scar into its metallic surface and marking a catastrophic shift in the war's trajectory. Within the shattered halls of the Aanium Sanctorum, the dust clears to reveal Megatron standing amidst ruin. Overlord has been erased from existence, and Rodimus Kron lies momentarily subdued. For Megatron, Windblade's daring act of shielding him from Rodimus's fury feels like a settled debt, a moment of reluctant respect forged in desperation. He acknowledges her courage, while Optimus Primal offers quiet gratitude of his own for Windblade's resolve, which drew him back from abandoning his allies. Relief cuts briefly through the devastation when Grimlock clasps Megatron in a rare show of camaraderie, but the moment is tempered by Windblade's grief. The loss of Victorian hangs heavy, her absence a raw reminder of the price their cause demand. Perceptor, ever the pragmatist, arrives bearing grim revelation. Much of the Athenaeum's vast archives lie in ruin, obliterated by the battle. Yet from the fragments he salvaged, a dire truth emerges. Megatronis' grand design is to fuse three legendary relics: the Requiem Blaster, the Matrix of Leadership, and the Enigma of Combination, into a weapon capable of extinguishing the spark of every transformer in existence. The revelation barely has time to sink in before Megatronis himself appears. His words twist the air, framing his scheme not as tyranny, but as an act of devotion. He reveals his true purpose: to resurrect Solus Prime, the companion he lost eons ago. The declaration leaves even Megatron stunned, his iron will faltering at the sheer scope of the fallen Prime's obsession. Any hesitation is swiftly punished. With ruthless precision, Megatronis strikes, sending Megatron crashing aside in a shower of sparks before seizing the Requiem Blaster. Optimus Primal charges to intercept, but he too is struck down, followed quickly by Grimlock. Before the fallen can depart, another force stirs. Rodimus Kron, consumed by the spirit of Unicron, reawakens in terrifying form. His voice reverberates through the chamber, declaring that the Matrix of Leadership must be annihilated. With devastating fury, he launches an attack that nearly obliterates Megatronis outright. Yet the fallen escapes, vanishing into the distance with the blaster in his grasp. Rodimus, relentless and corrupted, tears after him, his rampage scattering the survivors in his wake. As silence settles, Windblade collapses to her knees, despair etched across her face. Grimlock voices the unthinkable, the possibility that Rodimus must be destroyed to preserve their species. Windblade resists, clinging to the belief that Hot Rod still endures somewhere within the monstrous shell. The others hesitate, torn between hope and survival. In the end, Megatron reclaims command, though uncertainty shadows his resolve. He issues the order to head for the Well of Sparks, the resting place of Solus Prime, and perhaps the only ground where they might intercept Megatronis' apocalyptic device. Windblade, unwavering, demands he lead them into the heart of peril. After a waited pause, Megatron consents, setting their course toward destiny. Episode 8, Collision Course. Megatronis now wields the Requiem Blaster, and with it, unleashes his apocalyptic design. A colossal device roars to life, its pulse sweeping across Cybertron in a devastating wave. Sparks dim and flicker across the planet as countless transformers collapse under its draining power. What was once a thriving, if war-torn world is suddenly plunged into chaos and silence. The blast does not spare the heroes. Megatron, Windblade, Optimus Primal, Grimlock, and Perceptor are struck by the energy, their strength sapped as the wave courses through them. Perceptor, fighting through the haze, deploys a holographic projection that makes the horror tangible. The Dinobots falter, the Emissary collapses, and entire sectors of Cybertron go dark under the blight. The weight of Megatronis' triumph becomes undeniable. Even so, the group presses on. Their destination is the Well of Sparks, a sacred nexus tied to the origins of the 13 Primes, and long believed to be the font of Cybertronian life. The journey is a desperate crawl through weakening bodies, but upon crossing the threshold into the well's chamber, the torment abruptly ceases. Some unseen energy shields the sanctuary, breaking the wave's hold and offering the smallest measure of hope. That hope is short-lived. At the heart of the chamber stands Megatronis, towering and unyielding. The final confrontation becomes unavoidable. Megatron steps forward, his words reaching for reason, but the fallen Prime has no interest in compromise. The duel erupts, violent and merciless. Windblade, Optimus Primal, and Grimlock rally together. Their combined might briefly pressing Megatronis onto the defensive. Yet his mastery of the Requiem Blaster and his raw ancient power soon turn the tide. With a devastating strike, he hurls them back, then conjures blazing pillars of energy that trap them in place, leaving Megatron to face him alone. Isolated, Megatron bears witness to the truth. Megatronis reveals that every tragedy of recent history, the rise of the Combiners, the death of Optimus Prime, the struggle over the Matrix, had been threads in his web, orchestrated with cold precision to bring him here. What seemed like chaos was, in fact, his design, culminating in this moment at the Well of Sparks. Megatron steels himself, preparing to confront the ancient Prime whose name he bears. But before the duel can begin, the chamber convulses with dark energy. Out of the shadows steps Rodimus Kron, no longer the fractured warrior of before, but fully reborn as Rodimus Unicronus. His arrival sends a shudder through the well itself, signaling that the struggle is no longer merely against Megatronis, but against a cosmic corruption that has now taken form.
It's over, Megatronis!
It's too late to stop.
Episode 9, Megatronis Unleashed. The stakes could not be higher. Megatronis has activated his apocalyptic engine, fusing the power of the Requiem Blaster, the Enigma of combination, and the Matrix of leadership into a single doomsday machine. Its devastating pulse spreads outward, threatening to extinguish every living spark on Cybertron. The fragile world stands on the brink of absolute ruin. Against this tide of destruction, a reluctant alliance forms its last stand. Megatron, Windblade, Optimus Primal, Grimlock, and Perceptor press forward with one desperate goal: destroy the machine before it claims the entire planet. But just as hope takes root, their path is blocked by a nightmare made flesh. Rodimus Kron, now fully overtaken by the essence of Unicron, erupts into the battle. His body twists with dark power, his voice and presence no longer his own. Reborn as Rodimus Unicronus, he lashes out in a ferocious onslaught, scattering the heroes like leaves in a storm. The struggle is merciless. Windblade's blades find no purchase against his armored frame. Grimlock's brute force is swatted aside. Perceptor, despite his ingenuity, is left scrambling to shield his allies rather than press the attack. Even Megatron, ever defiant, is driven to his knees beneath the possessed warrior's unrelenting assault. The team, battered and reeling, fights only to survive. Amid this chaos, Megatronis himself advances with cold precision. Every strike, every diversion from Rodimus Unicronus feeds into his greater plan, protecting the machine until it reaches its final, irreversible state. With the tide of battle breaking against them, the heroes seem perilously close to collapse. Then, in the heart of despair, a shift occurs. The matrix of leadership stirs, its ancient power responding to the moment's dire need. It rises not toward Megatron nor Windblade, but to Optimus Primal. In a burst of radiant light, the Matrix chooses him as its new bearer. The transformation is immediate and profound. Primal's frame expands, his presence magnifies, and his spark ignites with renewed purpose. No longer merely a warrior, he ascends as Optimal Optimus, a towering defender imbued with the full might of the Matrix. The battlefield itself seems to tremble with his arrival. Where moments before the Alliance faltered, hope now surges. Optimal Optimus wades into the fight with unstoppable resolve, matching the raw fury of Rodimus Unicronus and standing firm against the calculated menace of Megatronis. His power does not erase the danger, but it reignites the will to resist. This moment marks the turning point. With Optimal Optimus leading the charge, the heroes rally for one last, desperate push to destroy the machine and save Cybertron from annihilation. Episode 10, Saga's End. The saga reaches its final crescendo at the Well of Sparks, where the fate of Cybertron teeters on the edge of annihilation. Optimal Optimus, now empowered by the Matrix of leadership, clashes head-on with Rodimus Kron, whose body has been overtaken by the dark essence of Unicron and transformed into Rodimus Unicronus. Their blows shake the chamber, embodying the eternal conflict between creation and destruction. Meanwhile, Megatronis seizes his moment. With cold precision, he levels the Requiem blaster at Megatron, intent on ending his namesake once and for all. Just as the shot is about to be fired, the chamber erupts in chaos. Predaking drops from the ceiling in a thunderous ambush, slamming into Megatronis and disrupting his lethal aim. The sudden intervention gives Windblade and Grimlock their chance. Rallying what strength remains, they aid Optimal Optimus in subduing Rodimus Unicronus, holding him long enough for Optimal to tear free the matrix of chaos, the malignant core of his possession. The battle spirals into raw brutality. Flashbacks pierce through the chaos, weaving back to the beginning of the trilogy and revealing how each moment has led inexorably to this climax. In a savage turn, Megatronus strikes with merciless efficiency, decapitating Predaking before the horrified eyes of his enemy. The act underscores the stakes. No victory can come without devastating cost. Then, an unexpected presence shifts the tide. From the depths of the well itself, a radiant projection of Solus Prime materializes, her form towering and luminous. She reaches out, enveloping Megatronus in her grasp, and drags him into the well of sparks. A blinding column of energy erupts skyward, scattering the darkness and heralding hope. A rebirth for Cybertron as new sparks burst into existence. Yet triumph comes shadowed by tragedy. With the matrix of chaos unmoored, it seeks a new host and finds Megatron. The Warlord trembles under its corrupting grip, recognizing instantly the danger it poses to all existence. In a moment of clarity and final defiance, he accepts the only possible solution. Optimal Optimus raises the Requiem blaster at Megatron's own insistence and fires. The blast annihilates both Megatron and the Matrix of Chaos, sealing away the corruption but costing the hero his life. The chamber falls silent as the survivors absorb the enormity of the sacrifice, but the story closes on a jarring twist. From within the well, a battered figure claws his way upward. Optimus Prime himself, somehow reanimated through a tenuous connection to the Matrix of leadership. Though alive, his return carries sorrow. He reminds them that not all can be restored, and many fallen will never rise again. And with that, the trilogy comes to a veritable end. To be perfectly honest, this Prime Wars trilogy stands as a curious chapter in Transformers history. Ambitious, chaotic, and unforgettable in its own chrome-plated way. Critics were often divided. Some praised the bold scope, darker storytelling, and fan service-heavy character roster, while others knocked the stiff animation, uneven pacing, and dialogue that sometimes felt more clunky than Cybertronian gears. Fans, too, were split, half enthralled by the mythic stakes, half wishing the execution matched the epic premise. Yet, despite its rough edges, the trilogy carved out a legacy of experimentation. Love it or leave it, Prime Wars cracked open doors that later Transformers series would stride through with more polish. For me, that's the charm. Prime Wars isn't perfect, but it swings big. It's a saga that tries to honor both longtime fans and newcomers, even if it stumbles in the process. Much like the Autobots themselves, it's a little battered, a little flawed, but still rolling out with heart. And if you ask me, that's the kind of spirit that keeps the Transformers legacy alive and shifting for generations to come.